Welcome back to Oneness. Today it is day 67 and we will be looking at verse 67 from Taoteching. As usual, before we begin, let's observe a few seconds of silence. Alright, so now let's get started. The verse 67 is a kind of a very profound verse. Somehow I got really attached to this verse because it summarizes the gist of Taoteching. It talks about three treasures, and whereas the three treasure, it covers the 70% of the Taoteching itself. So today it is a special chapter and let's look at it. So the verse 67 begins like this. Everyone under heaven says that my Tao is great and beyond compare. Because it is great, it seems different. So the first two lines, what Laotzu talks about is, he says why Tao is different. The first of all, the Tao is a knowledge which we cannot buy it from some place, or it cannot be passed from father to son, or it cannot be gained by reading some books, or it cannot be even lost by forgetting. It is a kind of inner realization. It is kind of a great realization which comes from within. So it is neither can be acquired by reading some book nor be lost by forgetting. So that's why the Tao is so special and it is different. And Laotzu says, if it were not different, it would have been vanished long ago. So if the quality of Tao, it is just like any other book that we read, then it would have vanished long ago. Then Laotzu goes on to say, I have three treasures which I hold and keep. The first is mercy. The second is economy. The third is daring not to be ahead of others. So he talks about the first one, the first treasure is mercy. The second treasure, he talks about economy. And the third treasure is not to be ahead of people. And then he goes on to say, from mercy comes courage. From mercy, when we are compassionate, that's when the courage comes. So when we love other people, that's when we really feel compassionate. And then we get the courage to even support the other person. And then he said, from economy comes generosity. When he say economy is the moderation. Only when we know the enough is enough, that's when we can give out to people. And then from humility comes leadership. A true leader always puts others' needs ahead of him. That's what Laotzu means here. Then he goes on to say, nowadays people shun mercy but try to be brave. So here what Laotzu is pointing out is, a braveness or bravery without being compassionate or merciful is foolishness. This I relate with Bhagavad Gita. So one of the instances in Bhagavad Gita is, when son of Arjuna, who is Abhimanyu, defeated by the opponents, instead of killing him, the Kauravas tortured him. Actually, they tortured him to the extent that he was bleeding. He was pleading to die, whereas they would just keep on stabbing him instead of giving him a clean death. Like as they say, if you want to kill someone in the war, you stab him in his chest, not in his back. If someone is pleading for death, give them a warrior death, instead of hurting them and torturing them. And that even become a very significant point in the whole of Bhagavad Gita, because that brought back the whole strength and vengeance towards Kauravas by Pandavas. And that's what leads to the Pandavas win. And that's what Laotzu refers here. Even at war, show mercy to people. Be compassionate. Instead of just torturing others, even if it is required, be compassionate, give them a death. And the other way to look at this verse is, when you're talking about a compassion, the compassion is even in a day-to-day life in a competition. So instead of seeing our competition as an enemy, we have to have a compassion. So what happens is, when we show our compassion, the enemy no more see us as an evil. Because we know that to use our full strength towards the other person, we should consider the other person as evil and we as good. However, if the other person is really compassionate and then he is really good, we will not use all our force to win the other person. Even if we lose to the other person, then we will take it with grace. We don't feel bad because we know that we lost to a good person. On the other hand, even if we win over the other person, we will show our goodness. We will be compassionate to the other person instead of mocking him or making fun of him. So that way the other person also will feel good. So that is a way of showing mercy or compassion. Then Laotzu goes on to say, they abandon economy but try to be generous. So nowadays people do not know when to say enough is enough. So here what Laotzu means is, it comes in two places. The first one is, first of all, we should know when to say enough is enough. So that way we will have resources, we will have wealth to give it to other people. And even when we are giving to other people, we should be moderate. If we give to other people without thinking, we are giving in abundance, like we don't value what we have, then the other person who is receiving it also will not feel valued. The other way to look at this is, there is a saying, teach a man how to fish instead of feeding the man a fish. It is something like that. You should be moderate in what you're giving to other people. Teach them with their knowledge instead of just recklessly giving all your wealth. That way it will lead to disaster. And finally, Laotzu talks about, they do not believe in humility but always try to be first. This is a certain death. A leader who do not believe in humility but then he just always try to be first, this is a certain death. It applicables to any leader. It can be a business leader or a politician or a government or a parent. If we don't take care of the people we are leading, instead of thinking about their benefit first before putting our agenda, then it will certainly lead to death. And that's what Laotzu means by staying humble. Be humble to people. Don't put yourself above everyone so that the people will feel the weight of you. Instead, stay below, stay at their level and stay at the lowest part. That way people automatically come to you. And that's what Laotzu means. Be humble. Stay low. And the final lines of this verse is, mercy brings victory in battle, strength in defense. It is the means by which heaven saves and guards. So in these two lines, Laotzu talks about practice this three treasure, which is compassion, moderation, and be humble. That was the way of nature, that is the way of Tao, the way in which the Tao, the whole nature, guards the whole humanity and other planets and other beings. With that, we come to the end of verse 67. So one actionable thought for today is, practice three treasure, which is nothing but compassion, moderation, and modesty. Or the other word for modesty is be humble. So in every day-to-day activity, be compassionate towards the other person. And then be moderate in what you accumulate or what you give. And third thing is, be humble towards everyone that you encounter or come across. That way, you will be one with the way of nature and you practice the goodness of the Tao. With that, let's conclude verse 67 and then talk to you tomorrow. Thank you.